it took me so long to film this video because this was one of the highlights of my trip to Japan last year. But the longer I put it off, the more pressure I put on myself to get this right. And in the spirit of not trying to be perfect, I'm just gonna go for it. Full disclosure, this trip happened several months ago in October of 2024. So it's going to be more challenging for me to remember the details of the day trip, but we're going to test my memory by using my Hobonichi Techo from last year, where I documented everything that I could remember about that trip. And we're going to use this as my guide, and we'll see how much I can actually remember. This isn't going to be so much of a stationery haul video because I didn't really go crazy shopping in Osaka, but I am going to talk about my custom stamp experience in case anybody is heading over there and would like to create one of their own custom stamps. And then I'm also going to go through this beautiful little package here that was a gift from a very special friend. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, then I invite you to settle in, grab yourself a beverage, a snack, and something to keep you company and help you feel cozy while we hang out and chat. Today I have a wild sweet orange Tazo tea, and my snack of choice is this raspberry jam filled cookie that I got from IKEA. Okay, so the first thing I'll say is that we didn't end up staying in Osaka on this trip. When we were researching accommodations, we felt like there were enough things that were either a train ride away from Kyoto or Osaka. And in the end, we decided to stay in Kyoto and use Kyoto as our base to do some day trips. So we actually arrived on a Monday, and that Monday was a holiday, but luckily the Travelers Factory was open. So if you ever do arrive on a holiday, hopefully the Travelers Factory will still be open because not a lot of things were open, but I think generally the shopping stuff was. So yeah, we arrived on a Monday, and then on the Tuesday we took a train in the morning to Osaka and spent the day there. And then throughout our time in Kyoto, we also visited Nara, Uji, and Inari. Today I'm just going to talk about our time in Osaka. According to this schedule, we woke up in the morning and went for a 5K run. Kyoto actually has this really beautiful canal that you can run along, and luckily we were staying quite close to it. So I think we went for a run. Let's see. Yeah, we went for a couple of runs while we were in Kyoto, and very flat, very lovely. It didn't take long to get to the water, and it was very beautiful to run along the water. So great running area. We took a train in the morning to Osaka, and I would say that this was one of the only times that we traveled during rush hour. So it was pretty busy on the train, but I don't remember it being too crazy in any way. At this point in the trip, I was pretty good at knowing where to look for the train station stamps. So I believe I got a stamp, and this is my traveler's notebook that I dedicate to my Japan trip because I'm still in the process of finishing my Japan travel journal. But I'm pretty sure that I got a stamp when I was there. So So I guess I got this stamp, which I think is the Osaka Castle. And I think that is it. Yeah, so we went from Kyoto to Osaka Station, and then we took a regional train to Morinomiya, probably pronouncing that wrong, station. And we ended up going to a place called R. Baker because we were meeting Himiwari Stationery and her fiance, now husband, for breakfast. I have been a huge fan of Himiwari's stationery channel, and when we finalized our dates to go to Japan, I reached out to her and I asked if she would be interested in meeting up. We stayed in touch, and I reached out again once we got closer to our trip, and luckily the dates just worked out. She was available and suggested that we meet at this place called R. Baker. It was this delicious bakery. I think everything was gluten-free, if I'm not mistaken, but we're really testing my memory here. We got a few different pastries, and we ended up sitting at a table outside the cafe for at least an hour, and it was just so nice for the four of us to get together. It was really natural conversation, and I honestly wish we had more time. So after we finished breakfast, they ended up taking us to the Osaka Castle, and we walked around. I noted down a few places we went to. So we went to the Osaka Castle, the Otoman Gate, and the Osaka Castle Park. And they were telling us about the Osaka Marathon, half marathon, and this is actually where they told us that the TV show Shogun had been filmed, and since then my partner and I have actually started watching the TV show, and it's really cool to see the castle in the show and remember that we were there in person not too long ago. So it brings back some really nice memories. After we finished walking around this area, we ended up walking towards this Izakaya Toyo, and we didn't know a lot about this place, but I believe they are on a Netflix show. It was just lack of research on our part, but they ended up taking us there, and we were going to wait in line, but the line was way too long, and we had a few things that we wanted to do before we had to head back to Kyoto. So I regret not going there and waiting in line now, because after we left, we learned a little more about it, and I feel like we kind of really missed out on an opportunity. But anyway, I'm appreciative that they introduced it to us and that we were able to at least see the owner in person. So he was there that day, and it was really cool to see the line. It's very unassuming. It looked really good. It smelled really good. And then from there, Himawari Stationery and her partner ended up going home, and we made our way to look for okonomiyaki. This is kind of where we started to struggle a little bit with our Google Maps. So what I remember about our time in Japan is it wasn't always, the Google Maps would sometimes be inaccurate. So it would tell you a certain place and it wouldn't be marked accurately on the map, or sometimes the opening hours wouldn't be accurate either. So we ended up finding this okonomiyaki place after, I think we tried to go to 2 or 3 different places, but we kept getting lost. And then when we finally found this place, and I had to copy it out in Japanese because I don't think it has an English name, but it was in this sort of outdoor mall, and it was supposed to be open, but when we finally found it, it was not open. So we ended up going around the corner to a coffee shop called Justice Brown, because at that point we were getting really hungry, and we got some iced coffees. We started looking up other places that we could go to, and then after we finished the coffee, we walked by and this place was open. I guess maybe the owner was just opening for the day, or maybe he had taken a break. we were able to get the most delicious okonomiyaki, and it only cost us 480 yen for one. So it was like this very big portion. I'm sure I have a photo of it. We were so happy. It was so delicious, and I couldn't believe how affordable it was. The only thing was there was nowhere to sit, so we ended up wandering around trying to find like a park bench or anywhere for us to sit. That was one thing I noticed, is a lack of seating for this type of thing. So we ended up walking back to this Justice Brown place and basically stood at the edge of a parking lot and ate standing. So yeah, that was really delicious. And then we kept on walking, and we ended up walking through a food market. And I wish we could have spent more time in Osaka just to eat more of the food, because I think we preferred the food in Osaka over the food in Kyoto. Having said that, I know Kyoto has that really big food hall, but yeah, there was just a lot of really delicious food options. Again, I copied this out in Japanese because I had trouble finding the English name of it, but it was where we got one of those custard filled, I can't remember what they're called. I'll put the name on the screen, but it's like those pancake-like fish desserts, and we chose one of the custard ones to share. It was so good. I honestly wish we had just gotten two of them, one with custard and one with red bean, but I guess just something we'll have to go back for someday. And then from there, we walked over to Kawachi, and this was a recommendation from Himawari Stationery. This was not on my radar at all, so I have to give her credit for telling me about this. But when we were meeting, she mentioned that there was a place where you could get a custom stamp made, and I was so excited about the idea of creating my own stamp that I was determined to go at this point. So thankfully my partner was up for it. It took us a while to find it. We eventually found the mall that it was in, and then we had to ask for directions because we just kept getting lost trying to use Google Maps, but we found it. And I ended up finding the machine, and again, I had to get a little bit of translation help, but the custom stamp maker is like a big machine. So you first have to choose the size of the stamp. There were bigger ones, there were smaller ones, and you have to go to the cash to buy it first. So I chose this size, and then after I paid for it, they hand you this stamp, and that's when you can go to the machine and start customizing your stamp. So because I didn't really have a lot of time to think through what I wanted, I just browsed through their ready-made templates. So this is what the stamp looked like. This is two template type things. There's stars, so there was a border that you could choose. And then I just chose this cute little dog because Little Coco Studio was named after my dog, Little Coco. So I had a lot of fun kind of playing around with the different frames and the different options here. And then I ended up hand drawing Little Coco Studio. So I wrote this out with my finger on the touch screen. And then once you're satisfied with what you've created, then there's very specific instructions on how to insert this stamp into the machine, and then the machine will create the stamp for you. And the good thing about the machine is there was an English option. So it was a little confusing at first to figure out that I needed to buy this first before I could use the machine. But thankfully with my translation app, it was easy to get that done. And then, yeah, once I had this, I could just proceed to make this stamp with the English instructions. So the whole process itself was pretty fast, honestly. Overall, I was really happy with this. I think this is so cute. You can see what it looks like here. It's just some stars. It says the Little Coco Studio is a little bit messy, but I kind of like how it turned out. Like, it wasn't too perfect. And I use this stamp on the back of all of my Happy Mail. So I've had a lot of fun using it. So thank you, Himiwari, for this tip. If any of you have any questions about my experience, then feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. After we got the custom stamp, it was time for us to head back. So we took the train back, and then this was another tip from Himawari Stationery and her partner. They recommended the food halls in the basement level of the train station. They said the food there tended to be really good. So for dinner, we decided to go to the basement of the Kyoto station because the previous night we weren't that impressed with the dinner that we had the night before. And we ended up just grabbing a bunch of food from the food hall to take back to our hotel. And the food was so good. This changed our trip in a way where after this, I pretty much only wanted to eat at train stations, just because the food really was good and it was affordable. There were a lot of really fancy looking restaurants in Kyoto. It's just that we didn't really want to eat at really fancy restaurants. I was mostly saving my budget for stationery, but I did want to eat good food. I didn't really want to do too much extravagant dining. So food hall was definitely a win. That was such a great tip. And for the rest of the trip, I pretty much tried to have at least one meal in a food hall from a train station. And that is so different from my experience in Toronto. There are a few stations, mainly like Union Station downtown, that offer fancy food or really nice food. But for the most part, the train stations in Toronto don't really offer much more than your standard convenience store type, like chips and chocolate and that kind of thing. And actually quite a few stations have even closed their food stands. So train stations are just so different in Japan, and I really enjoyed that experience. So that was my day trip in Osaka. It was such an amazing day. Such a privilege to meet Himawari Stationery and her partner. It was truly a highlight of the trip, and getting to see some of Osaka's landmarks from a local's perspective was amazing. And then getting all of these tips that really helped us plan the rest of our trip. So we were on the fence about going to Nara and Uji, but after talking to them, we decided to go ahead with our plans to visit, and those were also highlights of our trip. They recommended a bunch of really great places to visit in each of them. I got my custom stamp and also discovering the food halls in the train stations. That was all super appreciated. And on top of that, Himawari gave me a little gift. I already opened it, of course, but I put everything back as I found it because I knew that I was going to want to include this in my travel journal, and sadly, I have not made a lot of progress in my travel journal so far. So I'm going to open this up so I can show you some of the lovely gifts that Himawari shared with me, and also recommit myself to continuing to work on my journal, because these are the types of memories that I'm going to look back on fondly, and I'd rather them be in a book so I can look at them than in this package. So the packaging here says Hankyu. I think this is a stationery store in Osaka. So there's this really cute washi tape on it. This is a very beautiful box that she gave me. I just love this floral print so much. And on the inside, there's all these really cute goodies. I freaked out about how tiny her writing is I love small printing. I just think it's so cute, and I think she must have some of the smallest printing I've ever seen. Just adore this so, so much. And then inside, there was a bunch of really adorable stationery. So there's this really cute little strawberry clip. And then there's all these really adorable little bits and pieces. So I'll just show you some of these. This is like a little card. Girl cuddling with a dog. I don't know what's better than that. So much cute stuff. So cute. So I just love that she gave me this little like treasure box of stationery that reminds me of her. I think after this, I'm going to have to try to create a Himiwari inspired journal spread. If you haven't already seen her channel, she has such an adorable style. I love her journaling style. I love her planning style. I love her tiny little writing. She just has the best ideas. And if you're looking for a cozy watch and to be inspired, then highly recommend heading to her YouTube channel and checking out her videos. So yeah, I'm gonna cherish this box of stationery treasures. I'm going to remember our meeting for a really long time. I'm so grateful that we were able to meet in person. This is something that I love so much about this stationery community, is having the opportunity to meet with people that share the same passion for stationery and journaling and planning that I might not have been able to meet if not for this community. So I'm just so grateful that we were able to make it happen while I was in Japan. And I hope maybe we can meet again somewhere in this world. But yeah, thank you so much, Himiwari, for this lovely gift. Nothing is going to go to waste. I am going to save every bit of this for my journals and my memory keeping. Feeling very grateful, and I'm happy that I got to share this experience with all of you. I'm curious if any of you have been to Osaka. What was your favorite experience? If you had the choice to stay in Kyoto or Osaka, where would you choose to stay? I think if we go back to Japan, we would probably stay in Osaka instead and maybe do a day trip to Kyoto. If you're still here, thank you so much for spending this time with me today as I reminisce over my Osaka day trip. If you haven't already gathered from my previous Japan videos, it really was the trip of a lifetime, and this was absolutely one of my top memories. And I'm so grateful that I was able to go. Okay, that's all from me today. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.